Welcome, friends. My name is Catherine, and I want to introduce you to the Ancient Wisdom Healing Team. We are a group of folks that exhibit natural and skilled extrasensory gifts and talents, and we use these abilities to guide you to take agency over your health so you can move forward with a healthy and thriving future. So today's guest is Janell. Now, Janell and I met through Kim, another member of our team, at a social gathering at Kim's house. I think that was in 2022, wasn't it? Or somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. But we found we had many life challenges in common and found support with each other. So that's what kind of helped us be friends with each other. So welcome, Janell. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just
Wonderful.
glad to be here.
Oh, good. So let's discover your story and how you contribute to the healing of this planet. So how do you feel, or what do you feel is the purpose of your gifts and talents?
I really think it goes back to just being an empath
Mhm,
and, my desire because I feel so greatly,
mhm.
feel pain and people's emotions and, um, their discomfort. I think it's that innate ability to that because of being an empath, I want to heal them.
Okay. So let's talk about the pain, the emotional or physical that you help to alleviate for people. So let's tell folks about your training or the modalities that you use. What do you do?
Well, I started out like a lot of people, I did Reiki. That was one of the first things I did was Reiki courses. And that's what really kind of opened up energy for me as far as learning more about it.
Mhm.
Um, I actually felt energy in that back and forth where I could pull energy from someone if I was ill or give energy if they were as little as 5 years old. I remember doing that.
Oh, wow.
And so that really got me to thinking about energy later on. So I started out with Reiki, which is what a lot of people will say, so that I would have a better um, understanding of how that energy worked instead of it being from a child's mind.
Hmm.
And then I decided that I like medical intuitive, and I took a lot of courses in that. And then I moved on to like a healing touch type program
Hmm.
where I took a lot of courses in that. And so as I found modalities that interest me, I sought out help to learn more about it.
Okay. So how do you use these abilities and these new skills? How do you use those to help others now?
Well, each one comes with its own set of tools.
Hmm.
And then with each person, um, after figuring out what they're going through or what help they're needing,
Hmm.
you decide what part of those tools that you have in order to help them in the way that they need.
Okay.
And so each one of those addresses either an emotional component or illness. When I took medical intuitive, it was how to see, um, the organs in the body and if there was something off about them or I could put my hand on it and feel coldness or heat or I would know what was kind of going on.
Okay.
So each one of those tools helps.
Nice. All right. So what kind of issues have you seen for people? Are they, I'm pretty sure it's varied and all, but what were some interesting things that you have seen for
Well, when
people?
I first started doing Reiki, I realized that I expounded upon what I could do at 5 years old. So I realized which some Reiki practitioners still haven't realized, that you can actually connect with that person heart to heart. You can, connect with them through your heart to their heart, and you can really get to the bottom of some things when you do that. And so I was doing a lot of that at first,
Mhm.
um, where I would, if someone was ill, someone I knew had bronchitis for 3 weeks and couldn't get rid of it, had been to the doctor and what have you, and I connected with them really overnight. That was one of my earliest things that I could do, was connect with people uh, overnight.
Mhm.
And so when I did that, I was able to get really cool healings. Um, and so that was something that came up that was unusual, but was real beneficial, where I could really get that healing that comes from being totally healed,
Mhm.
not just like like an energetic
Mhm.
healing.
Not just symptom
And
removal then.
right,
Mhm.
right. And so one of the things that happened early on is I was connected with someone in the middle of the night who was ill, and I didn't fully realize that they had seizures.
Mhm.
And so they had a seizure in the middle of the night while we were both sleeping.
Mm.
And I had a seizure, which I had never had a seizure before.
Wow.
And so after hurting for about 4 days, I realized that I needed more protection. So there again, you learn
Mhm.
in the doing.
Yeah.
And so I keep learning.
Don't we all? Hopefully we do anyway. So how do folks report feeling after a session with you?
Well, like the one that I did that had bronchitis for 3 weeks, um, when I did a healing session on them, they
Mhm.
were they called me before I called them and said it's gone.
Oh,
Not
great.
only is it gone, but I don't feel like I was ever sick.
Mhm.
And then I had a sad case in a way, where my daughter's best friend had tumors all over her body, and she had 42 tumors. This was on a Friday where they did some diagnostic,
Mhm.
and they really were fearful that she was going to die then. And I really meditated on it and sent really like a laser white light that I use um, to um, throughout her body,
Mhm.
and I was able to clear and remove down to just 28 tumors in a 24-hour span.
Whoa.
So, and she ended up passing away not too many months later, but I felt at peace with that, because that's really what she was not meant to be here any longer.
Mhm.
And, but it enabled me to understand that I could do that.
Mhm.
And so that was a really good lesson for me, to know that I could do that, that I could manipulate
Yeah.
and heal people of something that seemed
Mhm.
out of the question.
Wow. So you were able to give her a few more months
Right,
because they were
right,
expecting her to die any moment.
right. And
Yeah.
she had an MRI the Friday
Mhm.
and then another one on Saturday. So I had kind of medical
Yeah.
comparison. And I did the same thing with my father.
Yeah.
He had a mass that he did not tell me about
Ah.
in his lung. And I just felt in my spirit I needed to heal his lungs. So
Mhm.
I did that. And a month later, he called me and he said, I wasn't going to tell you, but I had a large mass in my lungs, but I just had another scan and it's gone. So between those two, I realized the power
Mhm.
of thought and of frequency
Yeah,
and how that affects people's healing.
goodness. That's
So I
amazing.
tend to go on the side of medical intuitive or
Yeah,
medical healing, not necessarily, I don't really need to know exactly what's going on.
yeah,
Um, but but yeah, that, but when you're doing any kind of healing, you're involved in the emotions, you're involved in physical, spiritual. Um, I've worked with people that had negative frequencies or negative entities and were able to remove those out of their auric field.
nice.
So
Yeah.
it's just, it's potluck sometimes.
But with amazing results. So I like,
Yeah, that's right.
oh,
And not, it's not always going to happen that way.
uh-huh.
Some people have soul contracts that they're meant to go through something.
Yeah,
And so for me, my responsibility is just to do what I do.
yeah,
And if that affects them and heals them completely, then that was meant to happen. But if it doesn't,
yeah,
they're still getting good frequency, but they've made their own soul contract beforehand that this is something they're supposed to learn from.
yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your motivation in helping others. So how did you discover that you were, or when did you discover that you were different, or you thought differently, or your perception of life was different? When did that happen for you?
I think throughout my childhood was just crazy, um, where I had experiences nobody else was having,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be seeing an angel or seeing a ghost, for lack of a better word, or, or seeing, other things, feeling energy
Mm-hmm.
when I did not feel well, um, and was real sick. If I put my hand on my mother or my father, I could feel energy coming from their body into my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would feel better. So I knew that energy was flowing,
Yeah.
and that it went back and forth. I knew I was different because sometimes I knew things
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't necessarily should know. Um, and, like things that had happened or before I walked in somewhere, it's like I had deja vu all the time, that I'd already seen that or dreamt it or something like that. And I realized that when I spoke to other people, that they weren't experiencing the same things I was.
Okay.
And so that actually worked in reverse, where I hid. I didn't want people to think, what kid wants people to think they're crazy or a little off?
Yeah.
So I mainly hid,
Yeah.
and I continue to kind of investigate things on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly I hid until I was maybe in my 30s.
Okay.
And so I started awakening back up, because you're awake when you're a child
Mm-hmm.
and then you close it down. So then I started waking back up and trusting myself more.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and then 12 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago, I had a Kundalini awakening.
Okay.
And that was an incredible experience where a blue orb appeared before my face,
Yeah.
right in front of my eyes. And I heard a large crackle and a pop, and the orb went right into my forehead.
Mm.
And for 2 years, this burned. My pineal burned. And even when I thought about it later, it would burn. And I realized later in talking with um, other healers and people of a lot more wisdom that it was a Kundalini awakening. And so that awakened things that I had tamped down and hid.
Yeah.
And it was just out.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just out.
So
So,
that's pretty much how it affected your life growing up. You had to hide and so
mhm.
did you like going to school and things like that? Were there instances where what you could do and the abilities you had, did you use that in school, to help yourself with friends or with
Well,
grades or anything like that?
it, in a sense, more of a negative sense in the way that I felt people's emotions.
Hmm.
And I knew if the mean girl didn't like my dress. And so that made me self-conscious.
Okay.
So it made me more introverted
Okay.
because it's almost like I could hear everyone.
Yeah.
And every now and then I could hear them exactly what they were thinking. And so as a teenager, that just makes you more introverted.
Yeah.
So I think if I didn't have that, I would have been, because I tend to be more extroverted when I'm around people I trust.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm more introverted when I'm unsure of the situation. So that definitely plays a part.
Yeah.
When you know what people are thinking,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you know what precipitated this Kundalini, this energy that comes up through your body? Do you know what catalyst that was at that point to make that happen?
I think so. It was not long after the crash of 2008.
Mm,
And my husband and I had a lot of businesses, and we had several businesses and lots of property that we owned and houses we were building and that kind of thing. So we got caught up in that pretty good, where we essentially lost everything. And
mhm.
it was so traumatic that I think that spirit just had to jumpstart me. It's
Yeah.
almost like there was the paddles,
Yeah.
and spirit was like, okay, if she's going to do anything that's going to help and bring her abilities out, we need the paddles.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like, clear, send her the blue orb. So
It's like you didn't have the distraction of all of the business stuff, and then you could actually concentrate on
yeah, yeah.
your true mission
And
here.
I think that's true for a lot of people, that when you go through a traumatic event, it could be a death, it could be, um, a change in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
It could be, for some people, it's a divorce or a midlife crisis, or
Yeah.
you, you suddenly get all of those things out of the way and you get down to zero.
Yeah.
And then you're like, then spirit comes to the rescue,
Yeah.
you know, and probably means you didn't ask them to come, because we need to ask.
Uh-huh.
But they come anyway, and that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Wow. So did you seek any assistance or anything to become who you are today? I know you said you had some classes and things like that, but was there any special mentors or um, support groups or things like that that kind of helped you?
Yeah, I had a few mentors, and then was a part of a metaphysics salon was the name of it, and every meet we studied something different, whether that be numerology or or and it gave me a very broad look, whether that was for me or not for me. It gave me a look at how that modality worked.
Hmm.
And so it was learn so many different things, because then that information that I could go back on and use.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gone to classes,
Yeah.
just, that kind of thing. And so you learn a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I've had mentors, not one in particular along, but as I learned a new tool, one would pop up,
Yeah.
and so that's how that worked.
Uh-huh. Nice.
So,
Okay. So let's take a look at your view of the world right now, how things are. So
mhm.
what issues do you see when people come to you for help? What are the common things that people want help with and seek you
Well,
or your abilities, that kind of thing?
I think the whole planet has anxiety disorder
Mm,
just because it's so unstable,
mhm,
and the consciousness of the planet right now is such that it's making everybody anxious
mhm,
because it's not stable,
mhm,
and you've got different timelines going on. You've got different opposing polar views, polar beliefs that were somewhat tolerated or integrated before, and now they're not.
mhm,
And I think it makes people depressed, anxious. They're looking for um, their own spiritual path
mhm.
because they're seeking. The absence of everything being okay, you start seeking,
Yeah.
rather than wallowing in, what's going on. You're going to seek out, well, I need attention. I need
Yeah.
this ailment fixed or this emotion fixed. I just think it has a lot to do with that. And um, one takeaway is that I think people would relate to, that never before in history there's never been more light on the planet. And people would say that that's contrary because there's all this negative being shown, but
Mhm,
more light exposes more dark,
mhm.
and it exposes what needs to be filtered out or done away with.
Yeah.
And so just hold on because it's going to get better,
Yeah.
because the light is coming on more and more and more.
Mhm,
And because the light, you're seeing more. It
mhm.
isn't that necessarily that in our society there was less problems 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 40 years ago. It's just the light wasn't exposing it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just hang in there, seek your spiritual practice, get higher frequency thoughts, keep your thoughts up, and so that your own light will be part of that.
Yeah. So with all this light coming in and exposing this darkness, a lot of people, like you said, they do want to wallow in it and say, oh my goodness, this is too much. But do you feel
Yeah.
that there is hope for, for the world, for mankind and, for us moving forward?
I do. I think we're headed into some pretty rocky times. That's what my intuitive self says.
Hmm.
But in order for true change to happen, it's got to be rocky and volatile, and it's got to mess everything up
Yeah.
so that it can be remolded and reformed
Hmm.
into something better.
Yeah.
And so our job is just to keep our eye on that frequency, and watch your words.
Hmm.
Never before in history can your words instantly manifest,
Hmm.
because in the past, for thousands of years, the veil has been more closed, and now words really matter,
Yeah.
and the frequency of those words and how you say them. and how you treat others.
Mhm.
And so people need to know that you know, their worth is raising the vibration of the planet right now. And they
Yeah,
need to help others do that as well as themselves.
sure. Yeah. So when you're saying, we need to kind of clean up our act, and that things are going to get rocky and everything, it's kind of like I had the picture of, somebody cleaning out your closet. You can't clean it out while you still have everything in it. You have to
Yeah,
pull everything out, sift
right,
through
right,
it, and then put back the stuff that you want.
right.
Totally make it empty and start over. So that was the picture I was getting when you were talking about that. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Totally.
So in your opinion, what do you think the future is for holistic, natural, spiritual type practices and modalities? Especially like, what our team does, and quite a few others that are on the internet advertising their abilities. What do you think the future holds?
Um, I think that we are going to see a real change in how we treat unwellness.
Mhm.
And that could be emotional, that could be depression, anxiety, bipolar, any of that. That could be physical, spiritual. Um, and I think we're going to go back to um, the idea, and we bring up frequency a lot, but there's a lot of new things out there now that are frequency oriented that would be electronic or um, that would be like a machine of some sort. And I'm thinking in terms of like the old Rife machine, but on steroids.
Yeah.
And there's different things that are coming up for healing that go in and they actually find the frequency of liver disease.
Mm.
And then they can pinpoint that energy at that frequency
Hmm.
for liver disease to heal that.
Yeah.
And if you extrapolate that out to someone who's a healer,
Hmm.
they also have the ability to heal.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's kind of twofold where we can find by your body's frequency, whether that be a machine or some type of thing like that that can detect an abnormal reading and then it sends healing. Or I think the consciousness of the planet is raising up healers
Yeah.
because there's so much healing that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I think the planet is very involved in this movement where it it knows that people are going to need healing and going to need some change. They're going to need to move in a different direction, and it's twofold. The technology is being brought out, and then the human quality is being brought out to marry that.
Hmm.
And I think that is the future.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. But a lot of this, some of the things that you're talking about, they already use frequency for a lot of things. Like
Hmm.
I had a kidney stone that you couldn't pass it. So I had to have lithotripsy, and they just use frequency to bombard it and break it up so that I could pass it. And, uh, you know, to, and that was a certain wave pattern from what I understand that they do that with. And then on the Rife machine, I know if you change the wave pattern and just fill with the frequency part of it, it turns to a healing modality. So, I think there's, validity in what you're saying as far as using frequency to heal,
Hmm.
not just, as a natural healer type person, but also in the technology aspect of it. So I think that's going to be pretty amazing stuff that's going to be coming out and good
Yes.
use. Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those on the holistic or the spiritual path?
Just keep going, just keep honing your craft.
Mhm.
Um, you don't move forward unless you're doing. And so I'm saying that to myself,
Yeah.
you know, um, just keep going, keep doing it, keep finding out what you can and can't do. I find out a lot of times that I didn't know I could do such and such,
Yeah.
but then I realized I could, and so that's just a matter of um, being made aware, being in your body,
Yeah.
not getting too strung out and in the world, but being in your body and understanding from your own body what you can and can't do.
Mhm. Wonderful
But
advice. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you. Well, thank you, Janelle, for being with me today and sharing your story and what you do, and um, just being a support for folks. I really appreciate that. And how can we reach you and book an appointment? Maybe get some more information from you. How do we do that?
yeah, through the website wisdomhealingtree.com.
All right, so I'm going to put all of the information on how to reach Janelle and the rest of our team underneath this video, and I hope that you'll take the advice of all of these people who have told you how to, to keep going, to just keep going. So I'll see you.
That's right.
I'll see you in the next interview, and I really appreciate your time. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Okay, bye bye.